Hi guys, thanks for joining me on Daliso Sports Show. Daliso here. Right, Zambia versus Morocco happened in Ndola at Levy Mwanawasa Stadium, and predictably it was a bit of a disaster for Zambia in the grand scheme of things. You know, you watch games all the time and you are very hopeful when you're watching international football, when you're supporting your team. You keep having that crazy hope that they're going to do, they're going to perform a miracle. And there was no miracle for Zambia because personally, I think Morocco walked that game. They didn't even have to bring in any of their star players. We had Hakimi there. He didn't even come off the bench. They've got a very strong team. And like Zambia, they've got resources where we don't. They're using a lot of, or they're recruiting their players from European leagues, from European academies, where Zambia are using a lot of our players started playing their football at probably, very local level. So their understanding of sport is through love and passion. And there isn't more to it. And I think at the moment we can see that football, you need more than love and passion. You need to be able to function and to think and to play at a very high level. And we saw that today very clearly. We were making such easy mistakes. Panic, maybe. The first goal was considered in the most ridiculous way, trying to play it from the back for absolutely no good reason. You know, when the coach tells you, oh, we want to play it from the back, when you see there's a defender next to you, are you going to start putting a short pass? No, kick it. Make sure it's completely out of your area. Keeper fault as well as defender fault there. Really, no one was thinking. There was a panic going on and it became messy. And so Youssef En-Nesyri scored the first in the 8th minute. And then Igamane, early second half. That was another silly. It wasn't really like too bad from the keeper, so he's probably never seen that where a player is going to just take that kind of shot. But you could see by the time he spotted what the player was going to do, Igamane, he saw it coming and he just couldn't get there quick enough. One thing you also see, like with almost all our players, they are all small in stature. The days of having very tall. I remember James Peary. James Peary was not very small. He used to be quite big and tall, but we don't have players like that. Hichani Imonde, very tall physical player. Even Mayuka recently, very, very, well, he wasn't super tall, but at least he was tall enough. Whereas when you compare to Patson Daka and Fashion Sakala and our keeper, these guys look like they're 5'7", 5'8" players. Probably very skillful on a local level, but when you got competitive, you need a little bit more than passion. You need to have a very intelligent way of playing. You need to play with your mind, not just your feet. So Nsabata was in goal, and two crazy goals. Him and his defenders just were hapless, absolutely hapless. Our fullbacks, Gift Impande and Obino Chisala, ended up getting substituted in the end. They were really ineffective, but you can't blame them because the midfield, was empty today. I think they had to get a lot of support because they realized quickly on that they might lose this game really badly. Chaiwa, I sort of don't like the way he plays. I don't not like it. I like the way he plays. He did a good enough job, probably trying to protect the back four. Without those two mistakes, probably would have had a lot more success playing the way we wanted to play. But we got mistakes in us, and that is what costed Zambia. Kings Kangwa was my man of the match completely. Every time he was on the ball, you could see what he was doing. He was driving forward. He was creating chances. Lamek Banda, Fashion Sakala, I thought he did pretty well. He tried to take as many chances as he could. He tried to go down the touchline. It just wasn't coming off. He had a few opportunities. And yeah, Fashion Sakala has had a bit of beef with the manager. He got kicked out of the national team, and a lot of us could see why, because, there was a bit of a power struggle, but he's come in and he acquitted himself well enough. I know sometimes when you're watching a match and you've just lost, it's very difficult to be objective, but what he was trying to do, you could see what he was trying to do. It just was not working very well, because our team is not very good. We just do not have the right kind of personnel to influence games. The Moroccans are superior in probably every position. They were just using their minds to block everything we were trying to do. We had some opportunities. Pat Sondaka had a great opportunity. Their keeper saved it very well, but that was a good opportunity which was not converted. Pat Sondaka, I've heard people not say that they really wanted him on the bench. They don't want him starting. But with Pat Sondaka, you have to give him some good balls. You have to give him through passes. We couldn't create those chances for him to run onto. First of all, our opposition were very strong. They were seeing all those attempts coming and they were blocking them. They were intercepting them quite easily. And that's what happens. You have to have a midfield of very technical, very intelligent, players who can find a pass out of nowhere, and it was just not going to happen. I mean, Amrabat in that midfield read everything that was coming, especially from the Emmanuel Bandas and Lamek Banda, even Chaiwa. He read everything. And yeah, the team was too strong in the end. We paid for it. 2-0. We are not going to, like I said, we're not going to go anywhere. Even the FA fans are not expecting Zambia to qualify we are just not ready. We probably are not even ready to compete effectively at the African Nations Cup. So forget World Cup qualification. But it was very disappointing for many. We want what we can't have. And at the moment, a lot of nations around the world, even DRC, they are getting their players from Europe, by the way. A lot of countries in the world are getting their players from Europe. Their academies, their football roots, their foundations are very strong in European countries. In Zambia, we just don't have the facilities. You can't just put kids on the pitch and tell them to kick the ball. You have to go in class. You have to tell them how to think, how to reason. Complaining about, there's a player running forward who can get the ball. Why isn't he passing it forward? Those are things sometimes you have to be taught on paper. Mathematics, logic. It's not always, there's certain games you can get away with not being so logical if the other team are not as clever. But these guys you're playing against have got football intelligence, which has been gained by playing some of the best opposition in the world week in, week out. We do not have, we just do not have that ability. We do not have access to those footballing opportunities or markets. So yeah, we paid dearly for it. Now there's a player I really liked who came on for Lamek Banda, Edward Chilufya. I thought he did an absolutely amazing job. On the right wing, when he got the ball, you could see him driving. He's powerful and he's strong. So I don't know if it's one of those things he looked good because he came on as a substitute, but this guy looked amazing on the ball. I really thought, this guy can do something, and I hope they find a way of utilizing him a lot more effectively, because he was opening up opportunities that we were not having in the first half sometimes. I mean, Kings Kangwa was creating some of those opportunities, but not in a powerful way. Kings is amazing though. Definitely the best Zambian player. And even at the African Nations Cup, the last one we went to, he was sensational in terms of Zambia. You could see what he was trying to do. And I think he is trying to improve himself. I do not think our setup with our coach, Avram Grant, is going to help any of our players. We have to consider, I think we owe him money as an FA, and he's not going anywhere any day soon. Hopefully, there's a plan. I personally think even a local coach is going to be good enough at the stage we are in, but just getting a coach for the national team is not going to be good enough to build Zambia to be a nation that is competitive again. We need modern thoughts, modern techniques. We need players who play in a modern way, in modern leagues. We cannot be doing Chidunu football. We cannot take Chidunu football, to a World Cup qualifier, to even African Nations Cup. Have you seen the players that are playing for Cape Verde? Have you seen those guys, the way they run? Zambia cannot beat them. Or well, maybe they can actually, but but they are playing really well. There are all these players. Let me see, Bilal, Kanus. These are players playing in Europe. There's so many. If you go to DRC, Wissa is signed for Newcastle last week. How are you going to compete with players like that? Look at his stature. We are lacking in a lot of things, not only ability, stature, style of play, competitiveness. Yeah, that is a problem. The only bright spot I saw today for Zambia was Kings Kangwa. He was sensational. The other one was Chilufya. I thought he was pretty good, and I saw some positives that I think we can definitely take ahead. But it's not going to be in the next tournament or the next one. The FA think 2030 qualifiers we might do better, but there's a lot of intervention that is needed to improve things. So yeah, we'll see. I'm sure we'll talk more about the things that are happening at the FA in the next few weeks, next few months. But also there's still this argument about Kalusha Bwalya coming back into the FA, having that positive relationship. Personally, as somebody who sort of can see how it can benefit the national team in terms of accessibility to certain facilities in the wider world, I don't think it will hurt Zambia at the moment. In my personal opinion, I don't know Zambian football in and out completely, but for me, there are access issues. You need to be able to compete with certain, you need to be able to access certain dressing rooms, certain facilities, certain conferences for your local coaches. And Kalusha can do that for us because he knows people. He knows the players in FIFA. He knows the players in CAF. He's a former African Nations Cup. He is a former African Nations Player of the Year. I know it was 1988, but you'd be shocked how much influence that title holds in world football. They respect names. They don't respect a title which you got from some dodgy votes in some, wherever. They don't. So utilize everything. I mean, if Kamanga is there also to be utilized, maybe he knows a few people here and there. Yeah, utilize him. But his name, apart from Zambia, is nothing compared to Kalusha Bwalya's name everywhere else where it matters. And I'm telling you, forget your personal vendetta against Kalusha. I've got mine as well, but his name is more powerful than anybody else who is still playing, playing in these fast waters. So Keith Mwemba, make sure, keep him on side. Keep him on side. Don't let him interfere in your business. Don't let him obviously send emails asking anybody for anything. We know he's got issues in certain areas, but you can use him for the benefit of the national team, even just to open doors to get better access to coaching material, better access to maybe our local coaches going out there to conferences. I'm telling you, if Arteta called up, not if Arteta, I'm obsessed with Arsenal, aren't I? If Kalusha called up any manager in the world right now or sent an email, say, I'm Kalusha Bwalya and I need to speak to, whoever in Belgium, because we've got a conference coming up and I've got these local coaches who need to understand, a bit about the way football is going right now, they'll be like, we'll call you back in 10 minutes, and they'll call him back in 5 minutes because that is him. So we need to figure out, there should be some more intelligence on how he is used, and I think it can happen. And I'm only saying this because I think it's going to benefit Zambia in the end. Right. So anyway, Zambia 0, Morocco 2. That's how it ended. And yeah, it's painful, but what can we do? I think we've got a lot more pain coming. Thank you so much. And we'll talk about the other international games. Yeah. Right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.